Hello, welcome. As people are starting to enter the room. Hello, I know we'll have a few more people joining us, but we want to honor your time that you've given us today. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, welcome. It's really fun to see some familiar faces on the screens. Feel free to keep your videos on if you'd like, or turn them off, whatever you're most comfortable with. But really nice to see some of you who we haven't seen in a long time on screen. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julia Love. I am the Director of Admissions at ISKL and really delighted to welcome you. Before we get started, just a few digital housekeeping items. If you could stay muted throughout the session, unless you are a speaker and turn it on when you speak, that will help us to hear each other. There will be time at the end of the presentations for Q&A, and certainly we will allow you to unmute. But if you could stay muted, that would be wonderful. If you would like to change your name at any time so we know how to address you, you can do that by clicking the 3 dots at the top of your square and rename yourself. Please keep questions coming. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat box so that we can address them at the end of the session. There will be time, as I said, at the end of the session. And please also note that we are recording this session. It will be published on ISKL's website and our YouTube channel. So I think we're through the housekeeping and we will get started. Established in 1965, the International School of Kuala Lumpur, or ISKL, has become known as the center of excellence in the world of international education. International schools around the world have been set up to cater predominantly to the needs of families living outside their home countries, usually for work purposes. They are by nature transient communities, and careful management of the transition into and out of school is essential. We all know that there are many levels of complexity when it comes to transition, be it logistical or emotional. And let's not get started on the impact of COVID. That could be an entire session. So today, we wanted to take the opportunity to share how ISKL manages transitions, the processes we have in place to ensure a smooth transition to our school and community, and how we support families who are leaving for new adventures. We are so excited to be able to hear directly. We are so excited to be able to hear directly from some of our current and former parents about their families' experiences transitioning to ISKL. From a school with a different curriculum, returning home to their home curriculum, and a little bit about what it's been like to transition in the time of COVID. With us today, we have Annie calling in from the US, Claudia in Mexico, Vibeke in Norway, John in Australia, Tony in China, and Eileen here with us in Malaysia. But first, please allow me to introduce Rami Madani, ISKL's head of school, to start us off with his welcome remarks. Rami?
Thank you, Julia, and welcome everyone. So lovely to have you, as Julia said, and we are so thrilled to share our journey with you and to welcome our parents who used to be part of our journey, and we would love nothing other than having them back at ISKL. So I will be talking briefly about agility and adaptability, things we have learned, things we are working with our students on to ensure that they are modeling that. So ISKL at a glance, to start with, it's a school we are celebrating our 55th anniversary this year. We have over 1,700 students from 65 plus nationalities. Most of our teachers have more than 9 years of teaching experience. 72% of our teachers have master's or PhD. Most ISKL's IB teachers are examiners themselves. And ISKL is the longest IB school in Malaysia, the longest serving. We have more than 1,500 ISKL students who earned the IB diploma. So, and we have a lot to celebrate. Some of them is actually our accreditations. So we are accredited by CIS and WASC. These are 2 top accreditation agencies globally that will only accredit top quality schools. We're also authorized by the IB, And we have many, many awards and associations that model our values at school. Some of our values have to do with sustainability, with inclusion, with well-being. And we have won awards in these areas. We also won award for our brand new campus. So after this short introduction, let's talk a little bit about agility and adaptability. What do they mean? So to start us with, adaptability, we can take an example from the natural world where we see the great gray owl blending with the environment behind it, hard to distinguish from the tree that you see. Another example from nature is the leaf-tailed gecko that blends in that picture. It's practically seeing examples in nature of animals who adapted to their environment. And we can define that by saying it's adaptability, it's the set of skills that encompass a person's and organization's ability to adjust to changes in their environment. We have seen recently a lot of the changes that we needed to adapt to globally. Some of them you have experienced as you transitioned from ISKL to a new country, or those who work with relocation. All these transitions require all of us to adapt to new normal, new reality. The other one that I would like to define is agility. The best example in nature is to see a cheetah when they're following a prey, how agile, how fast, how quick it can maneuver to reach its target. So we can define agility as the ability of a person or an organization to renew itself quickly and succeed in a rapidly changing, ambiguous, turbulent environment. So putting both together are needed, really. We need to adapt to changes, and adaptability is feeling at home with the new normal, feeling thriving in that new normal rather than dreading it. The other one is the agility, is doing it quickly, not lag behind. As people transition, some of them adjust with agility to that transition until one day they adapt to their new home. So from an organizational perspective, we believe that this is important. And we can see some examples in organizations. For example, you have seen that logo before, and you may guess what it is. It's about Kodak. When I grew up, everywhere you went in the world, you could see Kodak producing films for tourists, for whoever needed them. And it was the leading company in films until the digital age came. And that didn't do well with Kodak, moved from being the top company globally to a company that had to declare bankruptcy and didn't exist anymore. What's interesting is that Kodak is the first company ever to produce a digital camera. They have demonstrated agility by doing so. But it was one designer, one architect that worked, that worked in Kodak, tried to convince the board of the company to move to digital. They refused. They wanted to hold on to the old way of being. And as a result, they didn't evolve. If you may remember, big companies like Canon and Nikon, when they transitioned to digital, they couldn't do it. They asked Kodak to sell them equipment to convert to digital. Still, this is a work of a few people in Kodak. The company itself didn't believe it has a future, didn't demonstrate agility and adaptability, and the world continued to evolve with cameras being smaller. And as you know, all of us, we have digital cameras in our devices. We see other examples of companies that demonstrated agility and adaptability very well, and those who didn't. For example, if they did not embrace the agility, like IBM, General Electric, they really suffered from that. But companies, whether we appreciate how they work or not, they thrive by demonstrating the agility. We, from a school perspective, are preparing students to a world that is highly complex, that things can evolve and change rapidly. And we want our students to adjust with agility and adaptability to those changes around them so that they continue to thrive rather than decline, like the example of Kodak. We do so by ensuring that our organization as a school is not hierarchical and rigid organization like you see the example on the left. In that triangular example, when things are always top down, companies don't do well with agility and adaptability because information takes forever to go up and down. People have specific skill sets that is not transferable, and it's hard to upskill people, hard to move. Whereas an organization that is circular, the one that you see on the right, this is a healthy organization that can adjust rapidly to change because it works through networks where there are a set of people who are informed, who are generalists, who can adjust to those changes. So that's what we believe healthy organizations do, and that's the world we are preparing our students for. We believe that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn new skills. When we talk about skills, we appreciate there are different sets of skills. Some skills require time to acquire. Some are quickly, like learn how to use software. You learn it quickly. Learn how to solve complex problems, that takes time. Learn how to compare and contrast areas around, in history, that takes time. Learn to adjust, it takes time. And then some differences in complexity. Some skills are simpler than others to acquire. As a complex skill would be really to, sorry. A complex skill will be an example of finding solutions to sustainable development goals. That's wonderful. This is a complex thing that we engage our students with. Some skills are easier. Some of them are learned or inherent. Some people have talent towards some skills. They learn it very quickly because there is so much innate that is in alignment with those, and some require longer time. And some skills are transferable, like critical thinking is transferable, collaboration is transferable. Knowing how to code a system is not always transferable, though important, but not always transferable. So to increase agility and adaptability, it's really around those skills to acquire, to learn quickly complex skills and make sure that these are transferable skills. By doing so, we are helping our students to be ready for the future. And some examples of doing that are the esslers, the school-wide learning results, where these skills are transferable. They take a lot of time to learn and acquire. And we believe that these are the future-ready skills that we are proud of embedding in our students. And these are examples of what our teachers do from young age. Teach our students what does flexibility mean. And you have, for our wonderful audience, whether you are a parent, you are from the retail company, you are whatever business you have, the agility and adaptability are areas you can relate to personally as well as professionally. And we believe this is something that we do well at ISKL. And to hear more about that, maybe I will stop now and hand it over to our wonderful, oh, sorry, I forgot one more last slide. We did demonstrate our ability to be agile and adaptable this year by having different modes of learning. And we are ready to transition, and it happened to us overnight, from teaching everyone on campus to teaching partially on campus, partially away. So with that, I stop and hand it over to Trina. Over to you, Trina.
Thanks very much, Rami. My name is Trina Koldick, and I'm the Director of Student Services here at ISKL. I've been really fortunate to have worked for the past 6 years. This is my first year in this particular position. And we just really feel fortunate to be able to speak to parents that are currently in school and parents that have transitioned and moved elsewhere to learn about their transition. Because part of our journey here at ISKL was learning from those transition phases and being able to plan and support students and their families in those transition moments. We know that moving from one country to another can be exciting. It can also be a daunting challenge. And for families, the list of concerns is choosing the right place for children to go to school. That right place is always determined by a variety of factors. But the nature of expat living is it's important that students and families experience a smooth transition into their new school, that they're supported, and that they're well equipped to either move back into their home country or to their next destination. And then when you throw COVID-19 into the mix, these transitions become much more complex. So who is better to answer the questions about transitioning than parents who have been through that experience supporting their own students, their own children, from country to country, moving from curriculum to curriculum, and culture to culture. To give us a taste of what that's like to transition into and out of ISKL, we've engaged with families from different parts of the world, and there is a panel of guests that span the globe. I'd like to welcome our guests today who took the time out of their mornings, afternoons, or evenings, depending where they are in the world. First, we have originally from the UK, Eileen Unwin. She's lived in Malaysia, in KL itself, since 2000, with a couple of stints in the country of Dubai, and then back to the UK. Malaysia is very much home for her family, including her 4 children in grade 11, grade 9, and twins in grade 5. We also have John Beatty on our panel. He arrived in Malaysia from Australia in 2014. His children attended ISKL for 6 years before the family's repatriation last year. They were then in grade 6 and grade 7. Heading over to Norway, and Vibeke Garvin is her only overseas experience outside of Norway was in Malaysia from 2018 to 2020. Her 2 daughters completed grade 2 and grade 4 before the repatriation. Tony Wu is joining us, and his son attended ISKL for 2.5 years. His young daughter also joined for 6 months before they returned to their home country of China in January this year. Claudia Vecejos joins us today from Mexico. Claudia is originally from Bolivia, and her family has moved many times, first to Jakarta, then KL, and on to Scotland before taking up their current assignment in Mexico. And our final panel member, originally from the US and now back again there, Annie Gillies. Annie is a seasoned expat, Alaska, Calgary, Jakarta, and Kuala Lumpur. Annie's 3 sons attended ISKL for 4 years when Annie's family was repatriated to the US over the summer of 2019. Their 3 sons were finishing up grade 8, grade 5, and grade 1 at ISKL. So we'll start in with some of these questions. The first question is directed to you, Claudia. Did you find the transition for your family in or out easier?
I think for us, hi Trina first, sorry. For us, you know, both transitions were, I think, easy because we were coming from, we have moved before a lot. ISKL was, I think, our 5th international school. So coming from Jakarta, that was a very similar school to ISKL, made it also very easy. At the same time, when we arrived at ISKL, there were some friends that also moved with us or later. So, you know, it always felt like we were in the same place, just with new friends. And moving out I was worried at first because it was our first time out of Asia. We've been in Asia for 16 years. So it was, you know, going to Scotland, we were worried, but as soon as we arrived, it was so welcoming. And I think also the kids were academically strong, so they didn't have to adjust or anything. We were worried about my 11th year old because 11th grade, because she was in she moved in the middle of her IB. And you know, they always say that the IB is very hard, you cannot move. So now she's in her 3rd school of IB. And I think the foundation that they got at ISKL was so strong that even with all the transitions that we have had in these COVID times, that we had to move in the middle of it, it didn't really affect their results academically and socially. I find them very, very happy, even we cannot move. So yeah, I think the transition haven't been as bad for us.
Thanks for sharing your experiences, Claudia. You've experienced so many different moves, and it is affirming to know that even in a rigorous IB diploma program, that transition is possible. John, I'd like to direct the same question to you, especially since you were repatriating to Australia and there's a difference in curriculum and school years. What did you find easier, the in or out transition?
Yeah, thanks, Trina. Well, moving in was so long ago, I might start with moving out as it's a little fresher in my mind. First of all, I'd just say that we're very lucky to be moving back to a country where the COVID levels are very, very small. So schools are open, the campuses are open, and obviously our hearts go out to people in countries where it's more of a challenge at the moment. So with campus open, what the first challenge we had was, as you said, Trina, the school calendar is actually different in Australia. So the school year starts in January instead of August, like it does at ISKL. And so the first thing we need to decide is whether to effectively push our children forward 6 months or pull our children back 6 months. We were very appreciative of the fact that we're able to talk to the middle school principal, school teachers, counsellors, other admin staff about their opinion and input into the readiness for the children going into various year levels. And that really helped us to make our decision. Ultimately, we made the decision to keep the children with their peer groups, so of children of similar age groups, which meant that our daughter skipped forward 6 months and our son actually came back 6 months. We found that was very, very important from a social and emotional point of view. They have settled in beautifully. I was just listening to Rami about agility and adaptability, and it really rang true when thinking about how well our children have gone in the last few months settling into their new school. Academically, we've found they've been very well equipped, bringing everything they've brought from their ISKL education. Again, emotionally and socially, they seem to be making friends very quickly. Our son has actually surprised not only us, but I think himself. He has come into his new school with great confidence. All of these things, have come from ISKL. A couple of practical things that the school did that I just want to mention too. We attended a parents' transition session before we left the school, which was very, very useful. Thank you, middle school counsellors. They talked of the phenomenon of reverse culture shock. And that's one thing that we've really, it really helped the parents also moving back home. We love being around our fellow nationals, family and friends. But, we're missing the vibrant international community that ISKL brings and the opportunities that we've been able to experience being part of that rich culture of various, people of various backgrounds. So, we have good days and bad days, but mostly good days. The other thing I'll just mention before I hand over to others is the moving on ceremony that the school put on for the children was also very, very, very useful for everyone in terms of getting a sense of closure. It was difficult to say goodbye, and I could see the children really appreciated that ceremony and being acknowledged, and it helped them with their finishing the chapter at ISKL and moving on to their new schools and their new friends. So thank you, ISKL, for that.
Thanks, John. Thanks for sharing some of the things you found particularly helpful. And it is true that reverse culture shock is a real thing when you are repatriating to your own home country. Rebecca, you had an experience where you not only repatriated to your own country, but same city and same school. What was that like for you and your family?
Well, we had a lot of the same experiences as John, where we went back to the same school, same neighborhood. all those sort of things. And what I experienced, or my children experienced, is that they were really well prepared to go back into a situation of studying during COVID. They had already had continuous learning with ISKL for a few months. And also, as John said, the moving on ceremony was really, really useful for them to take that part of ISKL with them and to move back to Norway. And we kept in touch with a lot of our friends, and they still do online. And I think that made it really a lot easier for them. And they also were very active in every step of the way to repatriate. So they were hands-on, and they were also allowed to participate in like making decisions on what to send, what to keep, and all the schoolwork that they did at ISKL, we still have that. So and they cherish that a lot. So and their artwork from the art classes that they had, we had that framed. They're in our apartment. They're in their rooms. We gave some away for Christmas. So all like little things that were really important to them to keep, they kept with them. And they're still a very major and big part of our lives. And also with things that they learned that will help them in the future also, like the Malawati way, which is take care of yourself, take care of others, take care of this place, which is very much alive both in our house, in my workplace as a teacher now in Norway, and in their lives in general. It's a good reminder of our time in ISKL and how that worked for them, and how that teaching situation was in the classrooms for them, but also as a tool in their daily lives here in Norway. Although they miss ISKL and they miss that a very welcoming environment that they had, they still kept those things with them to make that transition a lot easier. So we didn't have any, like, we had sadness, but we don't have that frustration that I was expecting more frustration and more, like, as you see in children, you know, it's really hard for them when things change. Also, I think the way they teach in ISKL with, for example, the student parent teaching, well, when they take their parents into the classroom and show them all of their portfolios, what they've learned, and their strategies on learning, and how that how they're so proud of their work, and that's really empowering them to do more of that in our classrooms here in Norway. Even though it's not what's expected of them, they still do, and they still feel that that they're proud of what they're learning and how they're using those skills that they learned at ISKL. So I think that the transition where they took all those skills with them as well really helped.
That's wonderful. And it's so great to see that they're taking ownership over their own learning and continuing to foster those skills in a new environment. And I'm curious from Tony, I'd like to hear a little bit more about when you moved to Malaysia, to a country or in a school where the home language, the language of instruction is not the same as your
Yes.
for your family. And as a multilingual family, how were you best supported?
Well, yeah, this was really a very good challenge for my son Johnny to move first from August 2018 to ISKL. So in here, because even we already be prepared for half a year and study English in China, but when you totally immersive English environment school, he still feel a little bit nervous. So I think in ISKL, I think we're very well supported. First one, I think the teachers in here in the community very, very patient. He noticed about the change and the challenge of our child, and also be very special patient to him, and always encourage my son to participate in the activities and also the programs, and not force him to do something. I think this is very, let him stay comfortable. Also, we are encouraging to reading the books. So now ISKL have very good large libraries and a lot of the books, and so he can pick up the ones he liked, and then we try to reading the books every day, every night before bedtime to him. And then this very good habit, when he learned the spell by himself, now he can reading by himself. Also, he can still maintain the habit, and even he came back to China. I think this will help a lot by developing his English skill. And also the last one, I would think, when we consider discussion about do we need to stimulate a pure English environment at home to Johnny, to my son, but actually the advice was given to us is that better we can try to speak the home language at home, so our child can develop both the Chinese and the English at the same time, and both big language can support each other. So these really help, and the Chinese grows and then enhance and bring up the English capabilities, and then both can support each other. I think it's a very good strategy for us to adapt it, and it really works for at least as Johnny and my son. It's something kind of thing I can share. He now enjoy reading English book every day, and even come back to China. I think it's thanks to ISKL have in the very critical time, so we can cultivate the sense of English and think in the native way. This has really helped a lot.
That's so great, Tony. It's wonderful that your family really fostered that home language as well with your son's English language development. And being a multilingual learner is such an asset and a highlight for anywhere into the future, for wherever he may go. I'm wondering as well, Tony, when you came to ISKL, it was your first time accessing a new curriculum and the first time for an international school. How did you decide what curriculum you would go with? What decisions making process did you go through?
Actually, there also a hesitation, because when we first come here, and then we also consult about friends and colleagues, and how they choose the school for their children. And also we do research, actually do research in investigating about the England, the UK curriculum, and the American ones. But I think the most important is that we highly evaluated to a school where our child can be well encouraged to stay curiously, and encouraged asking questions, and be independent thinking, they express themselves. So that's more important to cultivate the ability to learn, and also to connecting the people, can be well adapted in any changing environment in the future. So we go to do and investigate several schools, including ISKL and others. And from in ISKL, we seeing the people and the other students, when they face them, then they see their eyes, they always in light, with the light, and feel very confident and independent. I think the children in here is very well take care, and also encouraged to be who they are. I think this is what we're looking for. So I think this is the right school we're looking for our children. And more important is actually for ISKL, we have very good communities there. And I can share two stories for my son. And one is that one in the pre-senior. So he because I keep the fishing tank at home. And also one day he asking the teacher, can he just bring the fish tank to place in the classroom, and then so his classmate can also be observed the fishing. So his idea is well supported by the teachers, and then they find the tank and keep waters and to show the fish and to all the classmates. He feel really encouraged and confident about this. And the second story I will share is that when he grew up, moved to grade 1, so he find one day, because every morning he go to school, he cannot identify where's his classroom. So we suggest the teacher, can he put the right a classroom tag 1AA in front of the classroom, and the idea is well supported, and he feel very proud of it, and he always thinking it's mentioned to us many times, and every time he feel proud and confidence. I think these are the things we're looking for, and I would say, and that's why I also decided to send our daughter Annie to ISKL, even though because my job transition issue, we have to move back to China, but still thanks to ISKL, they have very good experience and then keep their encourage and independent and confidence. I think this experience is also very important for their next destination in China. I really think for that, yeah.
So experiencing a curriculum that really allowed for innovation and that ownership of their learning goals was important to you. Thanks for sharing those stories, Tony. Eileen, I know that you came from a British curriculum to ISKL. What was involved in your decisions about curriculum?
Well, actually, we get this asked us an awful lot. Why didn't we send our kids to a British school when there's many in KL, and you know, we had a lot of choice, but actually ISKL was just a given as soon as we went to look around it, because we were coming from the UK, and the kids, I've got 4 kids, and they were all at single-sex private schools in the UK, and very nurtured and a completely different environment. And I felt coming back to Malaysia, and having lived here before with when I was younger and my daughter was younger, but not the boys, I just felt as though they needed to experience Malaysia on an international scale, and therefore that needed to be incorporated into their school life mostly, so that they weren't kept in this little British bubble, but they were going to experience, and you know, all cultures, all diversities, and use that as a life experience as well as a learning and academic experience. So yeah, it's proved to be a very good decision. We've been here now 2 years, and 4 kids, very, very different personalities and learning strengths and, you know, skill sets, and each one is learning to their full potential, and they're all getting very, very individual teaching despite the size of the school. Obviously, it was quite daunting, as I say, coming from, you know, very small English schools to this kind of big city college environment. And especially for my eldest daughter, who was 15, it was a big step. But yeah, they've all adapted, and as I say, they're different learners. So one of them struggles enormously with dyslexia, but he's really supported, and that was also important to me, was that he was going to have a positive experience, and the school was going to boost his confidence academically. And he's sporty, so he gets all the sports he needs at ISKL as well, which is fantastic. And yeah, the teaching's been fabulous, the mentoring, the counselling, everything has really supported us as a family. And I think what I want for the children is for them to come out as well-rounded, grounded, confident individuals. And I can see definitely that's going to happen with each and every one of them, because whether they're in the classroom or learning online, I mean, the teaching really is phenomenal and enthusiastic. And I've heard that from different sources as well, are the teachers really as enthusiastic like all the time? Yeah, they really are. They're brilliant. And yeah, we're really happy. So yeah, I wouldn't send them back now to the British system. I mean, the IB curriculum is recognized worldwide. So they can still go back to the UK with recognized qualifications. That's not a problem.
Thank you, Eileen. It's so lovely to hear how well your children are doing, and especially your son, who I've gotten to know in my teaching role previously. He's a very active boy, and it's so lovely that he's doing so well. Annie, I'm going to ask you the next question. I know most recently you had a move repatriating back into the US, and it happened quite quickly for you and your family. When you think about that or any of the moves that you have done, what's the most useful tip or support you received, whether it was on your way in or on your way out?
That's a good question. So I would say on our way in, It was always get involved. There's no community quite as welcoming as international school community in terms of not only welcoming the children onto campus, but welcoming the parents in whatever capacity, whether they're volunteering, attending sporting events, and also just welcoming the community or the family as a whole into the community. So I think early on in each of our places that we went, getting involved was kind of the narrative that we started from. And when you start from that, you quickly feel a part of things, you meet people, you get the opportunities to learn about different cultures. And to me, that's the best bonus of an international school, is just all of the experiences you have of meeting people from all over the world. In terms of the transition out, to touch on kind of what Rami had said earlier, and John also touched on adaptability and agility, I would absolutely say that the experience of being in international school, being exposed to different situations, moving, having to kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and start again, gives the children a flexibility in their new locations. And I saw, wasn't hoping for a pandemic, but I definitely saw some of the strengths that our boys gained from their international school experiences coming to the forefront during the pandemic. We moved into our house off August of 2019, and we all know the rest of that year. So I think we started here. We kind of were working through, as John had touched on earlier, kind of the emotions of the transition, and then things kind of went on pause a little bit because all the schools went on virtual. And so while I thought, and I don't want to say that it was all roses. I mean, it was difficult for everyone worldwide, but for our boys, I think what I saw was it was hard, but they also didn't think it was that difficult to have to just suddenly change again. We went from ISKL to the schools they're at, and then they went on virtual, and it was like, okay, well, we can do this. We're adaptable. And I think that skill set, I would hope, carries through their adolescence and into adulthood, but it's definitely something that I would say, I'm not sure that it would have gone the same way had we never moved anywhere. If we'd always stayed in the same postal code or zip code through the entirety of their schooling. I don't know if they would have, I don't believe they would have necessarily acquired those skills of adaptability and just being able to feel at home in new environments, or at least accept the new environment quite so quickly. And just to go back to what you said earlier, just getting involved, I think the sooner you feel accustomed to a new community when you're relocating, the better off your transition will be, and the better your memories will be as well.
Yeah, you've really highlighted that getting involved is important, establishing some of those new routines. Highlighted the resilience that our students, our children do have. It's always amazed me the level of maturity and depth of understanding that they have approached the pandemic with. We can learn from them every day as well. Claudia, I'd like to go to you next. For what advice would you give families in transition?
What really works for us is to get involved. And every time we move, the school becomes our community, not just for the kids, but I know that in international schools, there's always activities for parents. So we all get involved as soon as we get there. I always inquire even for my husband, and he always joins sports or parent groups. We try to move into neighborhoods. Close to school is our first choice always. And usually you have parents and families around, and then it makes it easier, to fit. And at school, I sign up for everything possible. Probably some of you know me because I've been signing up for everything. And I think that also gives the kids, a different feeling when they see that the parents are involved, that they care, not necessarily in their classrooms, but at home. And being an expat and not working outside gives us moms and sometimes dads more time to do that, because sometimes when we're back at home, it's not possible. So enjoy it, take an advantage of that. The school is a very welcoming community for the whole family. And getting involved would be my main advice for everyone.
Thanks, Claudia. Those are great words. Getting involved is so important, and being as adaptable, agile that we heard Rami talking about before, but highlighted through your stories. John, I'd like to throw the same question at you. What advice would you give to families in transition?
Okay, just quickly, just to add to what both Annie and Claudia said, from my perspective, I suppose from a parent's perspective, we went from a family of 2 working parents, full-time working parents, to 1 full-time working parent with a stay-at-home dad who needed to fill his time when his children were at school, and volunteering for different activities at ISKL. It really helped me to fill a void that was left by not working full-time. So I just wanted to add that perspective to any families that are thinking that one parent may not be working where they had been previously as well. It's something to think about, that there are lots of opportunities for the parent also to get some sense of purpose and maybe expand their skill set as well at ISKL. So back to your question, Trina, 2 things I'd like to say. In terms of moving in, I would say we think of we think of each year having a team that supports our children. The team obviously starts with the classroom teacher or the homeroom teacher, the subject teachers, any specialist teachers, counsellors, administration, etc. So each year you have a new team. But the other thing is you need to think of is the parents are part of that team as well. So my point really is get to know that team well, really build a relationship with your teachers. We have found that they really value you taking that active interest in your child, because you know things about your child that your teacher doesn't, and your teacher discovers things about your child during the year that you may not know. And that active dialogue really helps to support your child. So that's one thing I would say, is really get to know and focus on communication with your school team. The second thing is, if you think you need help, just ask. There's no shame in asking for help. The ISKL teachers, counsellors, admin staff, they're so highly knowledgeable and experienced. They will really support you in anything that you need them to support you in. I suppose my message is really get to know your teachers, communicate as best you can, and ask for help if you think you need it.
Thank you for highlighting those, John. It is important for parents to recognize that their involvement is also with the school. There are opportunities for them to connect, just not only for the children, but for yourselves too. And that parent partnership and asking for help is so instrumental. You've said it well. There's a team that supports students here. So we've come to the section of our presentation where there's time for question and answers, and I would like to turn it over to Julia Love, who will take us through that process.
Thank you, Trina, and thank you to our parent panel. Wow, aren't we lucky to have so many committed, engaged, current and alumni parents. So I'm going to throw a question out, and this can be answered to any of our parents or any of our relocation partners who are here with us today. As we think about transition now and how different it is with not having the opportunity to do a pre-trip, not having an opportunity to do the recce and see the schools, and having to make choices and transition without all of that, the pre-trip, what more can we be doing as a school to support families? Or if you'd like to answer the question as a relocation professional, that we could be doing to support you as we all go through this sort of new way of supporting transition. Annie, go ahead. I see your hand up.
I feel like I'm in class. No, Julia, I think one of the slides that it was fun to see Rami's presentation at the beginning, because it reminded me of some of the things that we really liked about ISKL. And I think the informative slide where he's talking about the diversity on campus, academically where the school stands. I think that information coupled with, like you said, with no recce trips, reminding parents or talking to relocation companies about really how diverse the community is, so that everyone really can find something that feels familiar, but also feel welcomed at the same time by new experiences is very important. And I think if I were looking at the schools, if I were doing it all again and going to KL, I would be drawn to the true international feel of ISKL, that you can have kids in every division on the same campus, but still have them have, different experiences based on their age in different areas. And also, I think in a time like this, you need a school that can pivot quickly. One of the things, our oldest son here is in an international school now, and what we were impressed by was how quickly they pivoted, to use Rami's reference to what you guys had to do last year also with the pandemic. You need a school that has the infrastructure and capability and the faculty that can either handle virtual or in person, and we don't know how long that's going to last. So I think that if you can communicate that to the parents that are potentially going to have to choose a school in KL, or to the relocation companies, just those benefits of ISKL in terms of welcoming families, being able to adapt to the current bizarre situation that we all find ourselves in, while still making their children feel at home, I think is takes a worry off their list and lets them move on with the rest of their transition.
Thank you, Amy. Would anyone else like to contribute, or any of our relocation partners who are with us today? Anything we can be doing to help you as you help families in transition? I don't want to put you on the spot if you if you don't wish to answer, but if there's anyone here from the audience who
maybe I can share some
Yes, Tony.
for us, because especially most of China's family, actually the parents are not good at English at all, and then I think the big challenge for them to move in, adapt themselves, one hand in their children, and second hand the family, the parent have to adapt themselves to the new environment as well. So most of the time they could not find an efficient way how it can follow some process and to whom to be communicate. I think it would be helpful for them to can have some frequent asking questions and some frequent use the process that for them to easy them to be very quickly adapt themselves to the new environment in school. I think now I see one very good practice, and now at least from the Chinese community, that there will be one volunteer, a family who can be the contact to the school, right? And then they can distribute the information further to the family group. I think it's a good way. I think in the future maybe we can do in a more efficient, formal way that can have some frequent asking questions and something must do and some like a checklist, and it can be very easy to follow, and then and also can support them doing some English class, and it will be helpful for them. I think for children they can adapt very quickly, but I think one of the challenges is how they can support the parent to adapt them very quickly as well. That's also important.
Thank you, Tony. Vipika, I see your hand up too.
I was just thinking about how we have that virtual tour online, which gives a really good picture of how beautiful and extremely diverse the campus is, and it's such a great learning environment. But I'm thinking also now that you have a lot of young kids transitioning, that maybe you could have the virtual tours also include some of the classrooms, because the classrooms are they're beautiful classrooms, and they're so hands-on, and they're so easy to understand, even for a child who, like my youngest child, didn't speak English that well. It was just getting into that classroom, seeing what was on the walls, seeing what was happening in the classroom, made it so much easier for her to catch on and to enjoy the support of her teachers, enjoy the support of the other students that were there. But when you are not able to go and see the physical school, then for a young child, it might be difficult to imagine how that would be. So to maybe expand some of that on the virtual side would be even better, because I've seen the videos that were done and they're really, really beautifully in. But I remember the classrooms as being very inviting, very assuring that this will be a good place for me to be and to spend my days and to do my learning. And I know that this will be a success for me. And that was the first thought that I had when I went into that brand new campus with the kids, that, this is going to be so great. And yeah, so that's just, maybe that would be a good thing for a young child. I don't know.
Thank you for that. And I know Catherine's taking good notes in our advancement team. We appreciate your feedback. We are constantly looking for ways. We've moved into this virtual world. Even today's a great example of how we can get people into a room together from all points of the world to have these discussions. And I would just encourage our audience today, our partners in transition, our relocation partners, to please feed back to us. We do this together. We support families together. And so if there are things that we can do to help you as you're supporting families, please let us know. If there's feedback, again, from our parents, more ways that we can support families coming in and going out, send us messages. We are always here. For those of you who are in Malaysia, we are fortunate to be able to do some limited visits on campus now. So come and see us if you haven't visited us in a while. We hope that you will contact us and come and see us so that you can better support families who aren't able to be here in person. I can't thank our team of parents enough. Some of you, it's very late. Some of you, it's very early. We see the sun coming up behind Vibeka's head in Norway. We thank you for your time, the continued commitment, even after you've left. Eileen, you're not allowed to leave, so you have to stay forever. But I hope today has been a great opportunity to see just how engaged our families are in and out of ISKL. And we always say, once a Panther, always a Panther. And I think today is a great example of that. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Trina, for facilitating. Thank you, Rami, for your wonderful presentation on adaptability and agility. We hope to see everyone back on campus at some point in the future. So, and hopefully this next event can be in person next year. We have a little bit of a virtual tradition here at ISKL that when we end an event, we all unmute and we wave and we say goodbye. So I wish everyone a great day, a great night, and thank you so much for being with us. On that note, we'll say goodbye. Have a great day.